Good morning. This is BCIT's The Crow. I'm Anthony Atanisov, and I've got your morning updates. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in Vancouver this morning. Alongside Premier David Eby and Mayor Ken Sim, there will be a housing announcement just after 10 in the morning. Although the details about the announcement are still unavailable, this announcement comes a week after Premier Eby spoke to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on what might be a federal interest in what the province is planning. More updates to come after the announcement. Statistics Canada reports inflation cooled in January to 2.9% as grocery prices increased at a slower pace. BMO chief economist Douglas Porter says the Consumer Price Index report was a pleasant surprise.
Really what doubled the surprise, or the level of surprise, is the fact, we saw almost the exact opposite story in the U.S. last week.
The U.S. Labor Department reported last Tuesday that prices in January were up 3.1% from a year ago, suggesting inflation was down from December, but higher than forecasters had expected. A new replacement has been named for the new post-secondary minister position. Former Minister Selina Robinson recently resigned over negative comments she made about the land on which modern Israel was founded. Premier David Eby has chosen Lisa Baer. She was previously the Minister of Citizen Services to serve as the new replacement. Robinson stepped down as minister on February 5th amid an outcry by pro-Palestinian groups and others in response to remarks she made during an online panel, triggering accusations of Islamophobia from critics. A report from Statistics Canada says young people in Metro Vancouver who pay monthly rent are likely to feel less satisfied compared to other residents in British Columbia. According to data from Statistics Canada, between 2021 to 2023, people living in Vancouver were less likely to report a strong sense of belonging to their community when compared with those living in the rest of British Columbia. The report continues to add that young people are disproportionately more affected financially and mentally. When they don't own their homes, Statistics Canada suggests that they're less likely to have paid off their mortgages than Canadians aged 55 and over, leaving them more vulnerable to interest rates and hikes. Canada's Mental Health and Addictions Minister Yara Sachs is responding to concerns about federal funding for safer supply programs. Ottawa is hoping that by supporting the harm reduction strategy of prescribing pharmaceutical alternatives to high-risk drug users, there will be fewer opioid-related overdoses. Karen Reboot has more.
Says a lot of what's driving the prescriber alternative debate is anchored, unfortunately, by the opposition in stigma and fear. But she acknowledged the federal government could also do more to inform people about how such programs work and how a toxic drug supply is poisoning communities. Last week, Sachs visited Belleville after the Eastern Ontario city of 50,000 declared a state of emergency on February 8th after first responders tended to 17 overdoses in just 24 hours.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford's office promised more money for the city, but said he was not considering offering a safer supply of drugs. The U.S. vetoed an Arab-backed United Nations Security Council resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says his country did not back the resolution because it comes with hostage release negotiations at a critical time.
This resolution today could very well put those negotiations at risk. You talk about isolation. I think the American people, and I think most of the people around the world, would love to see those hostages home with their families. And if we just voted and went along with this resolution, the chances of doing that would be greatly reduced.
And now we're moving on to the world of sports. We have Champions League soccer today, starting at 12 today, as Europe's best teams face off today in the round of 16. Champions League runner-ups, Inter Milan face Atletico Madrid, and what will for sure be a chess match with both teams emphasizing strong defense. The other game is set to be a cracker. Borussia Dortmund versus undefeated PSV Eindhoven. Daniel Malin returns to face his own team in the Netherlands. We should be expecting fireworks from two of Europe's best. And now on to your weather. Right now it's 7 degrees with rain, mainly cloudy with pockets of rain coming in around noon. And those were news updates for this morning. Riley Loon was our producer today. Aaliyah Andrews is our AP. I'm Anthony Atanisov. Thank you for joining us. See you at 12.
This is 1680 The Crow, and you're listening to our feature presentation.
I have had the opportunity to work with people that I idolize.
Hear all these like social media gurus being like, you gotta post like 3-4 times a day, which is absurd, you know what I mean? Like, it's absurd.
My openness, I hope, gives the impact of letting people know that they don't need to be absolutely perfect in everything, and that there is going to be failures. There's going to be like a roller coaster of emotions and a roller coaster of events.
Being a musician isn't an easy job. It's filled with unbelievable highs, but unexpected struggles as well. During my career as a musician, I've often wondered if other musicians in Vancouver were going through the same things I was. The struggle to get noticed, the playing shows in front of almost no people just to get experience. It's always something that's gone through my head. My name is Ryan Bowles, and in this podcast, my producer Grace Miller and I get to know unique Vancouver musicians, learn from their experiences, and most of all, share their stories. This is Making It, Vancouver Musicians. In this episode, we're focusing on social media, the artists that use it, and how it's helped them. Here we speak to Vancouver drummer Jack Thomas, a man with an unbelievable story and 94.3 thousand followers on Instagram alone, and DJ, producer, audio engineer, and entrepreneur Koji Aiken, who has great insight and experience with how artists can use social media with over 70,000 followers on TikTok. How to effectively use social media can be a struggle for any independent artist. What matters is how you connect with your audience and how you take their feedback and adapt that into your musical content and career. Jack Thomas has a lot of insight into this trial and error process. Jack is a drummer from Port Coquitlam who, in September of 2015, lost most of his right arm in a tragic workplace accident. But much like Def Leppard drummer Rick Allen, Jack kept drumming, and his story has led to unbelievable opportunities, recently working and performing for Drumeo, a studio in Abbotsford, and becoming a Sabian Cymbals sponsored artist, and notably being featured on the most recent season of Canada's Got Talent.
As a musician, as an artist, I recognize the kind of importance to have a presence on social media, as well as building a presence on any new social medias that come in. So it all started off with Facebook, and then it was like Facebook and Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, etc., and so on and so on. So, like, starting off, it was just to have a presence almost. Like, I was like, all these big bands are doing that, so I'm going to do that too.
In the competition to perform live in Vancouver, social media often is the only opportunity to have your content broadcast to a large audience. Artists exploring the different types of content they will create helps to define their digital voice.
So yeah, anytime anyone asks me about how to like start a social media account or how to like use it, I always tell them like, you got to really figure out what you're doing there. And it's like DJing to an empty room, because it's like if you've never touched a DJ deck before, it's like an ideal place to like experiment and play around.
DJ Koji Aiken has come a long way from those beginning stages. And now he uses social media to share his work in each of his roles as an artist, as well as a means of creating opportunities to promote other Vancouver artists. He also began an entertainment group called Kumo that has performed at local clubs like Celebrities, The Rec Room, and True North. But how do you find your brand? What is the sound you're going for? For many musicians, starting out on social media can be a daunting process, but it pays off to figure out what works for you and use the platforms to your advantage.
Like, even if I feel like it's a good idea, if it's not responding, or if people aren't responding to it, it's like, all right, I guess it's not as good of an idea as I thought, and just have to figure out the next thing.
Not all artists use social media with the intent of gathering a following. Some, like Jack, underwent an evolution when their following began to grow.
I would say the transition between making it a personal account and like my artist account, so to say, ultimately came from when I started getting attention on my account. I posted a couple music things just because, it's my personal account. I play music, so I'm going to post music. But once it started to get attention from people that weren't just my friends, weren't just family, it was just like, okay, let's start to focus this on this.
For Jack, it was the Nimbus School of Recording and Media that pushed him towards online platforms to promote his content. even on ones he'd rather avoid.
At one point in there, I can't even remember what course it was part of. I think it might have been Production 200, but there was an element of building up social media presence. And so that's the only reason I ever made a Twitter. I was very anti-Twitter, and it was like, all right, well, let's just make this. And they're like, well, you should make it was an assignment. Make a Twitter page, make an Instagram page, make a website, make yourself available online.
Building a brand is important. Personally, I've always found the most successful artists, especially on social media, are the ones that portray who they really are. Those who let their followers in on who they are as people. And that authenticity allows people to connect with those artists.
When I first started posting, it was definitely like, let's post the best of the best, like make this facade, everything is great all the time kind of thing. I made that change to start being a lot more like honest and open. When I recognized what my content was doing for people, like the big thing for me, the big reason that I keep doing things is people are constantly saying, you helped me get through this hard time, or you helped me get past this hurdle in my music, or whatever it is that they're struggling with. And I'm like, okay, so they like seeing the human element of things.
For Jack, it's audience support that makes him feel more ready to be vulnerable on social media.
And I want to maintain that in my image. I don't want to be seen as someone who's like this perfect, crazy drummer, or this like everything's always great. He's so positive. It's like, no, I'm gonna post when I'm in a bad mood. I'm gonna post my crappy takes. It makes things a lot easier when I see that from other accounts. It makes it a lot easier on myself to see like, okay, this person that I idolize is also human. So I know that there are people who may take me as an inspiration. So I want them to also feel that relief of like, okay, he is human. That makes me feel good. I can attain that goal.
People like to cheer on an independent artist, particularly when they're local. There seems to be a sense of community pride when someone is doing it all themselves.
There's a sense of like pride that people get when they can cheer on an independent artist because they know that they're doing it all on their own. And there's a greater sense of actual like direct support to this artist.
Gaining a core following is a difficult challenge, but maintaining that following is an entirely different beast. As most artists will attest, maintaining a following is difficult work. For some, like me, it doesn't always turn out the way I'd hope. For others, like Jack and Koji, it means putting out a constant stream of content and keeping up with what's new.
Technology development now is like light years faster than what it was 1,000 years ago, right? So I think really the people that are staying on top of what's popping and what's new and being able to utilize these new tools, they're the ones that are going to get ahead.
It has now become an expectation of the industry for an artist to be on social media. But to be successful, you also need to develop the skills of a media manager. For Jack, maintaining consistency is a job in and of itself.
Maintaining my social media back then, it's very similar to how I do it now, and it's quite a tedious process of just analyzing what I've posted in the past while. Having a category of content ready to post, new things ready to post on a weekly basis or a daily basis, commenting and following people back that follow me just to get that attention out there. It's a lot of work. It's for one person to do. It takes a lot of my time.
Being a musician requires commitment. You need to focus all of your time and energy on making it work. From my own experience, you also need to have something you really believe in, whether it's your sound or your brand. It's about having a vision and committing to it.
I would say it's just I just relentlessly believe in something, like in a vision or anything, any sort of thing like that. And when I do, that's kind of the thing that carried me through the first little bit, where I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was kind of just posting just to see what would happen. I kind of had a vision that this is something that could turn into something massive and big, and also something that could really represent myself and help me in the trajectory that I wanted to go in.
I've also noted that it's often different types of content that stand out. Keeping up with current trends, trying new things, and ultimately, feedback from your audience.
Motivation Mondays for me, it's just kind of a way to maintain regular content every week. Somebody to get myself into the studio to do something, and then as well just, a way for people to hear a message maybe they need to hear that day.
Growth and following for these artists led jamming out in a kitchen and posting drumming and amputee content to greater opportunities and the perks of being a celebrity.
I share a lot of videos of me dancing to not like TikTok, like fun dancing. I'm literally just jamming out of my kitchen to songs that I discovered that I really, really like. And, I created a format that I can like rinse and repeat and share all this music with to all these people like on these social media platforms. And when I discovered that resonated with people, it kind of just really took off.
All the work an artist does to grow and maintain their digital audience finally pays off when more opportunities come their way. The marking moment of success for me was Tommy Mack reaching out to mentor my band, being that he was a major musician and has talent many admire. If you're like Jack Thomas, it leads to job opportunities, joining bands on stage, and television appearances. Jack notes that when opportunities come knocking, it's usually through social media.
Canada's Got Talent was a fun one. I was found through social media from some casting agents, and they said, hey, we're casting for the next season of Canada's Got Talent, and we would absolutely love to see an audition come in from you.
This national opportunity is a great example of just how profitable a strong social media presence can be as an endeavor. After his episode aired, his following grew faster than he ever expected.
After the show, it was a pretty immediate bump in social media following. I was probably reaching about 500 new followers a day. I went from about 25,000 followers to 50,000 followers in 3 days. So I literally doubled in 3 days' time.
Through that experience, another interesting opportunity came Jack's way, joining California band Drain on stage for a recent show in Vancouver. Jack says the band had been following him for years.
That's one of my main videos that I repost constantly because everybody loves it. People haven't seen it, so I will post it again if I have nothing to post. And every single time I post, they're like, whenever we're up there, you got to join us. And sure enough, they booked a tour. And like a couple days before the show, the vocalist was like, yo, you going to be at the show? Because we would love for you to jump up there with us. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. So one thing led to another. I met them at the show. We hung out for the day. And then when the song came on, I hopped up there. I couldn't hear anything because, obviously I didn't have the monitors that the drummers had. But it was fun. It was just an absolute blast.
And for Koji, he uses his platform to help support other local artists through promotion of their work on his Instagram. He does this to move the local scene forward and connect with local musicians. As a whole, this could be the next evolution in artists supporting each other in Vancouver. Different artists coming together and driving the community forward. I've always realized that a social media presence is a crucial aspect of being a successful artist. In my experiences, I've always found it a struggle. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break through that ceiling, but I'm glad to tell a story of two artists that have found successes in this realm. Jack Thomas and Koji Aiken, although very different from each other, have found niches that work for them and have gained a following that supports them in everything they do. Their individual stories show that to be successful, it's about consistency, work ethic, and not being afraid to try something different. The theme song for this series is Wayward by Skyline Park from their studio album From Dusk to Dawn. Other music provided by Of Oblivion and Koji Aiken. Our podcast and interviews were recorded at BCIT Broadcast Center and the Drumeo Studio in Abbotsford, British Columbia. We would like to thank Jack Thomas and Koji Aiken for their participation in the production of this podcast. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. but it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.